the Scorsese thing, that was, well, I'm cut from the film. You don't see, well, you see me for about a quarter of a second. I had one line that was cut. And you see me briefly for a quarter of a second looking surprised, probably because my line had been cut. But there's a scene where DiCaprio comes into the mayor's office, played by Jim Broadbent, to ask a favor or to ask for something. And I'm in the middle of a pitch. Basically, I'm trying to sell this thing, a solution, an elixir that cures people of TB. And the mayor, who was completely corrupt, wanted to get all the Irish people who just arrived off the boat, all of whom who had TB, he wanted to get them to vote for him. So basically, he needed something that was going to cure their TB to the extent that they were able to come and vote. So it was all very corrupt, you know. So I had this line about my elixir will soothe, and will cure anything, blah blah blah. So, but that again, it was. I met. There's a woman called. There was a casting director who was doing the initial casting. And I did something. I was up for another part. I was up for P.T. Barnum, a part of Barnum, which Roger Ashton Griffith played eventually. And then I met Ellen Lewis, who is Scorsese's casting director. She brought me in. And I'd put something on tape, for the casting director before. And she said, "Oh, Marty really likes your work." I'm like, he's seen me do a line, And so I did it again for her, and I got the part. And we filmed it in Cinecittà, in Rome. And it was extraordinary that they put me up in a hotel, and I was not with. It was weird. Lots of people. It was a job where lots of actors got lost because the schedule was all over the place. There were people who went out there for a day who ended up being there for 6 months. It was sort of weird. And I was about to go to the RSC, and I was there for the week. And the driver picked me up from the airport. "How long are you here for?" I said, "A week." He said, No, you'll be here months." And I'm like, "Oh, great, okay." And in fact, I wasn't. It was it was all done and dusted. And I had a day where we rehearsed. It was quite a big scene, this scene with people coming in and out, and most of the principals. So DiCaprio was in it, Daniel Day-Lewis was in it. Eddie Marsan and Jim Broadbent were in it, and also Henry Thomas was in it, who was sort of the sidekick to DiCaprio, who was the boy that was in E.T. He played Elliot in V.T.
Yeah.
So I had an afternoon watching all them. I'm watching Scorsese, which was amazing, and we rehearsed the whole scene on a Friday, with a view to coming back and filming it on the Monday. Which is sort of quite unusual, but that's, and it was just watching him work on a big scene and how he was going to do it. And there was the cinematographer was a guy called Michael Bauhaus, who I think is dead now, but he was brilliant. He said, maybe we should have the camera above the door. And it was great. And Scorsese was great. He knew exactly, he's very certain about what he wanted, quite irascible. Some started talking, one of the sort of chippies started talking in the corner, and he said, "That's not helpful, guys. Talking in the middle of what the fuck," and did all that. and that was fine. And I had this line. So he came to my bit, and I had this line, something like, "My elixir cures diseases of the blood, this, that, and there were about 3 or 4 things, and then it was ... But I just added a couple of extra things, just to sort of keep, so there was something, it wasn't. And Scorsese said, "That was those things did you add to the script?" I said, "Well, yeah, and just to." He said, "No, that's good." He said, "I'd like there to be a bigger list of things." He said, "Have we got any versions of the script where we have more, things that the elixir cures?" And so his script supervisor went through his computer and went, No, that said. He said, "Well, your task over the weekend is to come up with 3 more things we can put on the list." I was like, "Okay, you know." So anyway, we all went away. You know, we all went away for the weekend. I had a weekend in Rome. Jim Broadbent invited me over to his flat in Rome. So you know, it was great. And then on the Monday, you know, I'd had costume fitting and all that, and he said, he straight away, first thing he said was, "What did you come up with?" And I said, "I came up with a list of 3 or 4 things." And he said, "They're good." He said, "But unfortunately," he said, "we've been told we can't use anything other than what's written down." So he said, "I'll make sure whoever has to interrupt, it's Jim who has to interrupt me, interrupts you. So just stick to what you did." And so that was that. And so we did it and filmed it, and it was great. The only other thing I remember that Daniel Day-Lewis was there, and when I arrived on the first day, I've told this story before. I went over, you know, I was being introduced, and I went, "Hello, Daniel, nice to meet you." "The name's Bill." So, "Okay, nice to meet you, Bill." And he was terribly friendly. "How are you? How was your flight over here?" And I wanted to say, "Well, you wouldn't know about that because as far as you're concerned, the airplane hasn't been invented yet, if you're still in character."
Yeah.
But I thought I better not say that because it might upset him. So, but that was his thing. He just stayed in the character and the voice. But he was asking, you know, how, you know, he was terribly nice. And they all were, actually. I talked quite a lot to Henry Thomas, the ET guy, and he was lovely. DiCaprio was high, you know, I didn't sort of see much more of him. And so, yeah, so those are the other people. I did a very early thing with Alec Guinness on a thing called Smiley's People. And that was fairly extraordinary. And you know, I've one's crossed. You know, I worked with Jude Law when he was unknown. I played his dad on a stage thing.
Oh yeah,
and he's now very famous.
Yeah,
and he was great, and one knew because he was so good looking. I mean, he was only about 20 then, and he looked $1 million, and you thought if he can act, he's got a huge career in front of him, and sure enough, he can. You know,
it's a shame I never went into acting for that same combo, I think.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I always say people, you know, I'm what they call a jobbing actor. You know, I go from job to job. I can't be too choosy about what I do, although I am sometimes. I'm choosy about theatre work because theatre work is badly paid and it takes up a lot of your time. I'm not so choosy about TV and film.